So a little bit different for this week's video. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. I'm going to start all that again.
Okay, we'll get right into it then.
Okay.
What piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Just start. Just start.
Do you wish you'd started sooner?
Oh, definitely. Probably 5 years before I actually started. I should have started. So yeah, just start.
Why do you think you didn't start until the time you did?
Because I was always maybe waiting for the perfect moment or the right moment, but it'll never be a perfect time to go self-employed and start your own company. You've just got to take that risk and hope that it pays off, and it has so far.
So, thinking back to that first day of self-employment, which I remember very well because you'd not told your parents that you'd quit your job. You were still living in your mum's box room, and I think you spent the day at my house putting IKEA furniture together, pretending you were at work. What was going through your mind on that day?
It was a bit scary. What have I done? I've got no customers. How am I going to get any work? I was very new to everything basically about being self-employed. Yeah, it was a scary time.
And what was the reaction when you did finally tell your parents that you were living with at 31, that you'd quit your job to go self-employed? What did they say?
Well, I just want to say, yes, I was 31 living at home, but I'd moved back home. So
just caveat that.
Yeah, I did it. I'd actually moved out when I was about 22, so I had to move back for various reasons. So
I'm just living in the box room forever.
Yeah, I was living in a box room. So basically, my company started in a little box room in my mum and stepdad's house. What was the question again?
How did you feel when you eventually told them? Because you were so worried that you were worried in particular that your Pug.
Yeah, Pug.
You were worried in particular that your stepdad might be a bit cross with you. Quitting a steady job to go alone with not very much preparation.
I think because of the reasons that I may get into in another video, but basically I felt I was being bullied by the boss, or one of the bosses, and I didn't like going into work every day. It was stressing me out. There was always arguments, but because he was above me, I couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, basically I felt like I had no choice. But yeah, they were fine. My mum was always worried. She still is now, even 8 years later. But
I think your mum will always worry. I think it's what mums do, isn't it?
But my stepdad's very encouraging, and he even helped me out on big jobs where I couldn't lift bifolds on my own or things like that. So no, it's been okay actually.
And they bought you the DS 1.0 van where it all started. Maybe insert a picture here.
I don't even know where the picture is.
Do you remember that it had handyman on it?
I did, yeah.
Double glazing, windows, doors, handyman.
Yeah, I didn't quite know where I wanted to go with the business when I first started, so I thought, well, why not try everything to maybe make more money? But I've learned over the years that just stick to what you're good at, and the work should come.
I know it's cliche when people say it, but people say jack of all trades, master of none, and you really do end up being the master of none.
Yeah.
You know, we're only known for doing. We don't even do conservatories. That's how much we stay in our lane, that we only want to do windows, doors, double glazing.
We could do conservatories, but
I just
choose not to. It's too much stress. You know, trying to get a builder, they're just horrendous to get hold of. Well, the ones we have used in the past, very good builders, but they just, the night before or a couple of days before, where you've sorted out your week or your next 2 weeks worth of work, and then they say, oh, we can't come tomorrow now because of this, that and the other. It just messes up the whole timeline. So you're not just only messing that job up, possibly 3 or 4 or 5 other jobs. So yeah, conservatories, yes, we could do them, but no, I don't want to because of the hassle and stress that goes with it. So yeah, stick to your lane, do what you're good at, and that's it.
I think that's what we've found as well. When you stick to what you can control, everything runs a lot smoother, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's one thing that you use every day at work that you could not run your business without? If you had to just pick one, the one most important thing
that I could not run my business without.
That everything would fall down without it.
Wow.
Me?
Obviously. Well, my iPad has got my entire office on it, so all surveys, all jobs, everything is tied to the iPad. I'd probably say the iPad. I probably couldn't live without.
I would have said the spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet was up there, yeah. That's probably a close second.
Do you want to tell your viewers about the master spreadsheet? I think you're in the wrong lane here. I think we're going straight on.
We are going straight on. The master spreadsheet, yes. Basically, each inquiry that comes in gets given a job number. It starts with DS and the year. So we're in 2023, so if you were to ring up tomorrow, you would be assigned a job number. It would be DS23 and then whatever job number it is. So let's just say DS23100. Everything for what's the word?
Communication?
Well, everything to do with your job would have that reference attached to it. So when we do the survey, send it off to our suppliers, that will have that reference number on. If you were to not go ahead this year but wanted to go ahead sort of in 2 years' time and revisit the quote, you just give us that reference number and it will have absolutely everything to do with that job on it, so we can just find it straight away. It's much easier than doing like Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Jones, you know, quite common names, because I started that way and it was just getting a bit confusing. We had probably 4 Mrs. Smiths in the first year, so which one's which? You know, you can't. So that's why we introduced job numbers, and it's just so much easier.
Well, not only that as well with the common name thing, but you'll find you'll do one job for a customer and then they'll go on and maybe have 2 other jobs from you that year. So it's like, it's Mrs. Smith and she had a door and then she had a window, and it just makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
But the spreadsheet is more than just the job numbers. It's got like a status next to everybody's job with what status they're at. Do we need to make contact with them? Have they had a survey? Have they had their quote? Have we chased up their quote? So it's really used by everyone in the business, and it allows our office manager to keep track of everything. We have like a weekly meeting where we go through it, and it sort of dictates our priorities, doesn't it? So
yeah, it does. So every time something happens with that job, the spreadsheet gets updated. It's got a drop-down menu. It has, I think it needs updating. It needs a couple more extra bits added to it. But basically, if you call Mrs. Smith, initial inquiry dealt with, survey required, then we know when we look at the spreadsheet, we know that we need to book in a survey. Once we've done the survey, quote sent to supplier. Once we got it back from supplier, quote sent to customer and stuff like that. So it just gets updated constantly. So if I'm not at work or the office manager or anybody else, they can just go to the spreadsheet and know exactly where they're at with that. I'm not the best at updating it, so I try and stay away from it, but yeah, spreadsheet.
I think that's the thing as well. We built that when it was just you, and almost there was no one else really helping, and you could say there kind of wasn't a need for it because you knew where you were on everything, but you kind of have to build with the future in mind and how things are going to be and how the company's going to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that was an important part of it. So describe a typical week in 3 words.
Bloody hell. Time consuming, stressful. Well, I wouldn't say stressful all the time. Probably time consuming. That's a good question.
Do you want to know? I thought of the 3 words that I would describe it.
Go on then.
Varied.
Yeah.
You can be on the tools one day, surveying the next day, meeting with suppliers another day, meeting with the accountant another day. It's quite varied.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Roller coaster.
Yeah.
I think it can be very up and down. We can have really high highs and really low lows and everything in between. And fun. I think it's quite fun.
Yeah, so varied, roller coaster and fun.
That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah, but no, I'll agree with that.
I do agree with the stressful as well. But
Yeah,
I
it
think
can be
that's
very stressful.
part of the roller coaster.
This is why I now have 2 phones, because I can't be dealing with emails popping up on my phone at 9 o'clock at night from, sometimes you get the odd customer who's not happy. It's not very often, but
It just ruins your evening.
It does ruin your evening. We end up arguing.
We talk about it all night instead of watching Vanderpump Rules.
And then, yeah, it just ruins your evening completely.
So that's another hot tip then. Get 2 phones for your self-employed people out there.
Yeah, 2 phones.
And leave one of them, your work phone, in the drawer at work. Or in the van or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that bit. But,
No.
yeah, 2 phones.
What is something that you have invested your money in as a business that you regret? If anything.
That I regret.
Or that you would do differently then. Maybe regret's too strong of a word.
I do a lot of things differently, and you could do a whole other video on that. But I wouldn't say I regret anything because it's got me to this point now. But I definitely spend money in a different way. I'd be a bit more calculated about things. I'd actually think it through whether I need that tool or need that whatever it is. I'd rather have a plan. I've spent a lot of money on the unit and things like that, you know, on trips to IKEA, and you're in IKEA and you think, oh, that'll work at the unit, and then you get it back to the unit and it's like, nah, it doesn't actually work. So it's just sat there collecting dust, and I've spent a couple of £100 on this thing.
I think we're all familiar with buying shit we don't need at IKEA.
Yeah.
Me in particular.
But yeah, I definitely plan out how I want things a lot better, and spend my money a bit more wisely. Like, we've done the unit as it is now, but I definitely do things differently because you end up paying twice.
What's the best thing about running your own business?
Freedom. I think now that I'm 8 years in, I couldn't work for anybody else. I like the fact that I'm on my own time. I think I've touched on it in another video where if I want to go and get a haircut, in the day, I can go and get a haircut in the day, and no one can tell me otherwise. I don't have to ask my boss to have time off.
You do get a lot of haircuts in the day.
I do actually. Every 6 weeks.
I would say 100% of your haircuts are done in the day.
They are
on work time.
Yeah. But yeah, stuff like that. If you need to go to the doctor's, dentist, or even if you just... I think I was walking through Sainsbury's the other day and I was getting some milk for work, and I just thought to myself, I wouldn't be here if I was actually working for somebody else. I'd be stood at a bench, putting windows together on somebody else's time. You're told when to have your break, when you can go to the toilet, basically. Stuff like that. I think freedom is the biggest thing for me. Not being told what to do. Well, that's a lie, because you tell me what to do quite a lot. Even though it's my name above the door.
You do need someone to tell you what to do, though. That's how we found you work best. You can't always see the wood for the trees, I think. We have so much going on that I think it's fair to say you maybe struggle to prioritise, but I'm quite good at seeing these are the most important things that need to happen first. Yes, I think that's why we make a good team. Would you say?
Yes and no. Yeah.
So on the flip side of that then, is there anything that you miss just about bog standard employment?
Working with people constantly. Like when I was working in a factory, I was stood next to the same people every day. You know, you had a good laugh with them. Now I'm sat in my office on my own quite a lot, driving around quite a lot.
That's not to say that you don't work with other people. You've got people that work for you, but you just...
I'm not...
Most of your job is done on your own, isn't it?
Yeah, it can get quite lonely sometimes.
What's going on there?
Police. Ambulance. Yeah, it can get quite lonely sometimes. Holiday pay, don't get that, but it's not.
Well, you don't not pay yourself when you go on holiday, so you do get it.
I mean,
you just don't get a formal, free time off type thing, do you?
No, but I mean, to be honest with you, the freedom thing comes into that. I'd rather have the freedom than the holiday pay type thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the freedom is massive, I think.
That's the biggest thing for me.
So, what's next for DS?
What's next for DS? Wow. Just keep doing what we're doing, but better. We've got an office manager now. I think I've got better at what I'm doing, being a bit more streamlined. Hopefully add another guy, probably next year now. I was hoping to add another fitter this year, but with the way the economy is and things like that, I just want to be a bit more careful, so we'll keep it as it is for now. We've got 2 vans for the lads. I've got my van. Yeah, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, but a bit better. We'll try and, I don't know, yeah, just basically be better at what we're doing now.
So, over the course of the last year, we've basically doubled the business. That is in number of employees, in turnover, number of customers. What do you think we owe that success to?
The way we go about our business, again, I've said it in other videos, double glazing has got a very bad reputation over the last sort of 30-40 years, and I sort of wanted to set this company up to change that perception. I believe I'm doing that. The Google reviews speak for themselves. We're nearly on 100 on there. We've got various other reviews on other places. Everybody says how honest we are, how reliable we are. We turn up on time, we're tidy. you know, and that's what I wanted, and I think we are changing that perception of the industry, hopefully.
And I think that's one thing that has been really transformative, getting so many reviews, and I think that's something that we would encourage other self-employed people to really push, because we didn't necessarily push it from the start. You know, if people left us a review, that was great, but we didn't actively ask for them. We didn't, you know, build our whole business around asking for them and around these reviews and stuff, and that has been a real shift, I think.
Yeah. I think last year we started on 12 or 13 Google reviews. We had a few on Facebook, Check a Trade, but I wouldn't touch Check a Trade if I were you. And then we started giving the customers a card, like a business card with a QR code on, which they can scan, which takes them straight to Google, and then it leaves them, and then they can leave a review. And yeah, we've just touched 92, which makes us the second highest in the county, I believe. I might be wrong.
Yeah, and we're up there with, you know, the companies that...
The big boys, basically.
The few companies who have got more than us. They've been going 20, 30 years. You know, they've got real pedigree in the game. But it is something that customers continually mention to me as well. If they come into the showroom, or if I speak to a customer on the phone, you know, we pride ourselves on no hard sale, and we say, you know, we encourage you to go and have a look at our reviews. And I don't think I've had one customer who hasn't said to me, yeah, that's why we're here, we've looked at your reviews, you know, we can see you've got loads.
Yeah, it's like, I can tell you how good we are, but other people's reviews and opinions is the best sort of form of...
Ultimately, people trust other consumers' opinions, don't they, more than they trust what a business is telling them.
Yeah.
So I think that's been really transformational, and I think as well, getting everybody in the company on board with that, not just it being you and I focusing on, right, we want to get loads of Google reviews, getting the fitters excited about it, getting the office manager on board with it, getting everyone throughout the company.
It's become a bit of a game for me. I'm desperate to get to 100, because that will really make us stand out even more. A lot of the companies around this area, there's a lot of double glazing companies, a lot of one-man bands, a lot of smaller companies. We're starting to get, we're up there with the big boys now in terms of reviews, and I think once we get into the 3 digits, we'll stand out even more. So I'm just really excited to get to 100, and hopefully it'll be soon.
I think one thing we've always tried to do as well, even from when it was just you with your van that said handyman on it, I think we've always tried to portray ourselves as a much bigger company than we actually are.
Yeah, I think if I go back to the beginning, we were called DS Aluminium Windows and Doors in the beginning, and we were getting a lot of inquiries for massive jobs. We were the only company in this area that sort of, well, one, had aluminium in the name, and two, like you say,
promoting it quite heavily.
Yeah, we promoted it more than what we did the PVC.
Yeah, we had a website from day dot. We had all the social accounts from day dot. We were really portraying ourselves not as a one-man band, but as a company. And I think that helped to build trust, or build a bit of, let people have a bit of confidence in us.
Yeah, I mean, the jobs that were coming in, they were way too big for me. I was only on my own at the time, but we just sort of had to make out that we were either too busy or, you know, things like that. But those companies have come back years later, and we've actually done some work for them. But yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who's just set up as a self-employed person, just set up, gone it alone? What would you tell them to focus on?
Make a plan. Make a 3 to 5 year plan. Definitely. Sort of maybe figure out where you think you want to end up in that 5 years and work backwards and how you're going to get there. I wish I did that. I had a loose plan in my head. It wasn't written down or anything, but definitely make a plan. I sort of had the idea of making commercial aluminium windows and doors, because it was quite easy for me, you know, to do stuff like that, because it was square cuts. I can do it very easily, those sort of jobs, but I needed the money to get the machines to be able to do that. So that's why I started going back to what I know, fitting PVC, to build up the bank account to buy the machines. But the PVC side took over, and I just carried on with that. So, but yeah, make a plan, work backwards from where you think you want to be. I'll do a whole nother video on what I think you should, well, what I wish I would have done when I first started. Hope you liked that video. Hopefully it gave you a bit of an insight into me and how I run my business. Give it a thumbs up. If you liked it even more than that, give this channel a subscribe. Go back and give some of the older videos a bit of a like, and we'll see you in the next one.